Hey dancers, it's Kirsten. Welcome back to the Confident Dancer YouTube channel. Today I have a conversation with my good friend Julie Gill, who is the founder of Broche Ballet. We are talking about how to thrive as an adult recreational dancer. And I'm going to introduce Julie in a second, but I want to say that this conversation is for you whether you are curious about starting ballet, you are currently doing ballet as an adult just for the fun of it, or even if you are a younger dancer who's training pre-professionally or you're professional. I think there are so many insights that Julie shared that are really impactful and helpful no matter what your goals are or your experience level is within dance. And even I do want to encourage you that if you're a professional dancer and you're like, well, I'm still dancing, what's the point of watching this? I do want to encourage you to watch this because all of us will face a day, one day, where we're not dancing in a full-time professional company anymore, if that's where you're at right now. And I have found it so important and helpful for me in redefining my relationship with dance as someone who does it primarily just for the fun of it, not as a professional career. And I think, again, Julie and her story and just her insights are going to be very encouraging for you and just giving you hope that you can totally thrive having a unique relationship with dance or just whatever that looks like for you. So Julie, to share more about her, she started Broche Ballet, which is an online adult ballet studio. It's really cool what she does. She has basically a monthly membership where I'll have her links for everything down below, but she offers classes that are over Zoom 7 days a week, all sorts of classes for adult dancers, whether you never dance and you want to start, or you've been doing this for a while and you want to keep up with it. It's such a beautiful and encouraging online community of people that she has who show up to her classes every day. So I would totally recommend that you check it out. And also she started the International Adult Ballet Festival in Miami. It is happening every summer. I was so fortunate to be a part of it as a guest instructor and speaker last summer, and it was genuinely one of the highlights of my entire year. I cannot recommend attending this enough. So definitely look into that. It's a great opportunity to build community with other passionate adult dancers and to get excellent instruction in a beautiful setting and even to be able to perform. So check it out. I'll have all of her stuff down below. Follow Julie on Instagram. She has great inspirational content. And without further ado, just enjoy this conversation. I know I did. And I look forward to hearing what you have to say about it in the comments. So please share, and that's it. Enjoy. Well, hello, Julie. Welcome
Hi,
to the
Kirsten.
YouTube channel. I'm so
Yay,
happy
so
you're
happy to
here.
be here.
Yes, we've collaborated so many times on Instagram, on your YouTube channel. I've taught some classes for Broche Ballet before, so we feel like, this has already
And,
happened. I don't think it has happened
and
for
the
my
festival last year, you were with me in Miami for a week, so there's that too.
highlight of my whole year. It's so good. So before we just go off and reminisce about Miami, I'd love to hear about basically for you to share who you are and what you're doing now for the people who might not know you.
Sure, I will try to keep it brief because I know we're going to get into a lot of stuff together, but I started ballet at 17. Now it's been about 15 years in the past, and started it alongside my career, my software development career and product manager career. Eventually, after several years, left the corporate ladder behind and started teaching ballet with an apprenticeship with my private teacher at the time. Did that study with her for a while and eventually opened my own studios. Ran a couple of studios in Denver for a while, and through the period of COVID, ended up closing those and transitioning to my online program that I've had now for I think now almost 3 years, which is also shocking news. How fast time flies. And then after running that for a while, really felt that the performance component was missing for my dancers and for the adult ballet community. And so I opened up the International Adult Ballet Festival, which meets here in Miami in the summers for people to come fly in from all over the world and perform together. So they bring their own piece, we bring a piece together, and we have a great time. So my life has just become all about supporting other adults with big dreams to fit them into their life in the most fulfilling and enjoyable and fabulous way and become the dancer of their dreams. As cheesy as it sounds, is really what is happening here.
No, it's true. We all have dreams. I think all of us have this picture in our head of how like fun it must be to be a high level dancer or, a ballerina. And I think there's this little part in all of us that wants to experience that, whether you started it when you were 5 or 17 like yourself, or even later. I'm sure you get lots of maybe corporate professionals coming to you and they're like, I want some exercise, but I also want, poise and posture and fun and all that. So at Broche Ballet, what are the main things that you do there? You teach online classes. I know you mentioned the festival, but I'd love to really introduce the people to the world of Broche Ballet because I know it's pretty cool.
Yes. So our who is there? That is, I think, the most kind of exciting place to start. Who is there? So
Yeah.
we do have a big group of corporate professionals. Pretty much everybody who's flocked to the studio loves ballet for the deepest details possible. These are people who love ballet because they want to learn the particulars, because they love to dive into the details and all of the nuances of it. So if you don't like that stuff, you're probably going to find my classes pretty boring because we go pretty deep in stuff. We take a lot of time to work on small, minute stuff. Like we'll spend time on your pinky finger, on where to be looking in a moment, on the shape of your heel, like on the little tiny stuff. So the people who gravitate to my classes are the people who are like to ballet, like into it, right? So we've got the corporate professionals, we've got lots of teachers and lawyers and scientists and doctors and engineers, and we've got people who kind of work that full-time life and then, dance in their passion. We've got one thing I love about the online program is how accessible it is to people who are taking care of children at home, and that they can hop in with a toddler on their hip and enjoy the classes from home, whereas it's not always accessible during that early period of their life, of the child's life, to leave them to go into the studio to take class. So I love how accessible it is for them and how many of those people are in Broche Ballet. When I had Denver studios, we had almost nobody in that demographic, in that age group of people with young children, because it's so difficult logistically to leave them every week for 90 minutes, much less the time driving and parking and all that. So I love how accessible that is, and that the online world has opened up that group of people to us because we didn't used to have them. And then we've got another group of people who are a bit older. Maybe they've left their career, their kids left the house, they're looking for something really fulfilling and really deep, and maybe they've had this dream in their heart for a very long time, but man, it's busy running a life and a kid and a career and kids and all of that. And they finally have time to themselves and they just dive in. And these are the people who I see 7 days a week. These are the people who come to see me on Zoom 7 days a week, sometimes 2 times a day. And this crew, all the way up into the early 80s are with me every single day on Zoom because I teach class every day of the week. And they're always in every class, loving all the details of ballet with me. So I would say those are kind of the main big groups of people who really flock to our community and what we're doing.
That's so beautiful. And I witnessed this in Miami. For anyone listening, I was one of the guest instructors and speakers at the International Adult Ballet Festival, the first one in Miami. Now, the next one is happening this summer. Y'all should go if you're in this demographic. Like, I'm actually going to twist your arm through the internet. You're going to go. Okay, you're going to go. So good. Unless the deadline is already, there's still time to register, right?
There's still time. There's still time. You still have a few months to get to Miami. So get here. It'll be fabulous.
It's so fun. It was so touching to me to witness how many people you've just brought together through your passion for ballet. And I think one of the biggest things that I want to highlight about you on this channel for dancers who are listening, who might be young pre-professionals, recreational dancers of any kind and age, any genre, I think you really embody a true passion for dance that you gave yourself permission to enjoy, even though your path looked different than the start at 6 years old, train, be accomplished in the ballet world and get into a professional company. Your path looked different, but I just love how unashamed you are about loving ballet, continuing to improve in it, looking up resources. Like, I know you've done teacher trainings and you mentioned being an apprentice under another teacher, and you found a way to not only enjoy dance yourself and continue to improve in it, even though I'm sure you had to pursue some unique avenues for training compared to the more traditional path, let's say. And yeah, you're so open about your passion that you've then learned to share that with other people, and you've become a really incredible instructor. And I love that you also really exemplify not needing to have, principal dancer experience to do a really good job teaching people. Like personally, what I've learned is that sometimes the dancers who make, the world's stars of ballet, they make it to that status, they're not necessarily always the best teachers by default. Like it's the teachers who can really, they've had to figure things out on their own, and they've also sought help, and they've sought the answers and asked the questions, and they really have empathy for the students and understand what kind of experience they want to give their students. And that's really you. And so I saw how many people just have flocked into your world because I think your passion really attracts people and gives them this sense of permission to also be unashamed about that. Like, yeah, I'm 52 and I love ballet. I love it. And so everyone's energy at the festival was so infectious. And I've even seen your Zoom classes, like, you know, I'm just fangirling over you right now. I hope that's fine. It's true. It's true. Okay, I'm not making it up, but yeah, I love teaching for your group because they are so genuine in their excitement about dancing. So I'd love to hear what were some of the things that you did from 17 to where you are now to, well, first, like enhance your skill in ballet, because I'm sure people are asking the questions like, where did she train? How did she learn? What was that for you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all of it. That was really beautiful. I appreciate it a lot. It's been it's been a long road to get to that sort of unashamed part because I did spend a lot of time, wondering if I had a place in the ballet world and wondering if somebody who's a late starter who, was kind of fell into the teaching apprenticeship and then it's like, do I deserve to be here and should I stay here and what can I do with this? And I don't have that. I didn't go that route, but now I'm being directed in this route and kind of how all of that came together. So it's been a long road, and I appreciate the sentiment that that it's gotten to where I have hoped it would, that I hoped it would get to, just being able to share the passion and the love with
Yeah.
people. And I think that with learning ballet, I did a lot of private lessons, a lot of private lessons, especially because having having studied music all growing up, I studied music from a very young age, so young that like my piano teacher wasn't taking kids my age, but she was teaching my brother, and so I like learned some of his music and played it at the recital, and was like, "Will you teach me now?" Like I just asked her if I could go up and play it, and she's,
Wow.
"Who does that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Apparently, like,
That
I want to
would be
learn.
you.
Apparently, I was like, I'm 3, but I learned his music. Can you teach me?" Like, I just really wanted to learn so
Totally.
bad. Um,
You're giving prodigy vibes so hard.
oh my God, it was hilarious. So anyways, I studied music for a long time as a kid, and definitely my mom was a big believer in private lessons, because she never got to have private lessons as a kid. And she always, like, my parents worked really hard to make sure that I could have private lessons in music because it was so important to her that I would get that experience that she never got to have. And so she, you know, just always had me in private lessons for music. And through that experience from just, I mean, age of 3 or 4, starting that and having that, seeing how learning takes place in private lessons, but 99% of your individual practice, right? You go to the private lesson, you get the feedback, and then you practice on your own and you show your teacher what you learned, and they give you more tips, and then you practice, and then you show your teacher, and then they give you more pointers, and then you show your teacher. And so seeing how that learning process actually took place, I think when I got to ballet, I was like, well, obviously I'm going to go to group class, but I'm going to get private lessons. It was just what you did, and I'm going to practice at home. And I think I got a bar in my house like the first couple weeks of class, because that's just, to me, from music, how you learn stuff. You go to group class to meet friends and have fun. You go to private lesson to get specifics for you, and you practice to apply those specifics, and then you go back and have fun with your friends, and then you go to private lessons, and then so to me, that was just what the learning process was. So I think that was a huge benefit to see that from the beginning of ballet. Like I hadn't even done any ballet before, and I was like, I need private lessons, and it's like, who does? I mean, that's just.
Yeah.
But I think it should be. I mean, why not? Why not? It doesn't mean you can't
I have one friend who
private
does
attention.
that. Shout out
Great.
to Melanie if you're watching. She's just like, I wanted to learn ballet, so I just got private lessons, yeah, with this top dancer from San Francisco Ballet. I'm like, okay, Melanie, whatever.
Yeah, but it's what I did. I didn't think
Yeah,
anything of it because it was just how I learned. I mean, I went to group class every week and then I had private lessons and then I practiced at home and it was just the
yeah.
way I started learning it. And yeah, that was kind of my early path was a combination of all of that. Then I had the ability to join the dance minor program when I went to Pace University, and that gave me a huge breadth of dance
Oh,
training that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise in adult programs. Often you don't get so much intensity for that period of time. It was like, multiple dance classes a week for a few hours. And so that was a big boost for those 3 years of the dance minor program. And then afterwards, just continued with private lessons, group classes, and home practice. And I would rent studio space in New York and just practice for hours and, apply all the things that I was working on and just noodle on things until they worked. And then I'd go back to my private teacher and show her what I've been working on. And she would give me more things to practice. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got most of my skills. And that's still kind of what I do. I mostly take private lessons and then group classes whenever I can.
that makes a lot of sense, seeing how you work. Because I would be, well, I'll say I can tell when a teacher got most of their perspective and teaching philosophy and approach to technique just by kind of saying verbatim what was passed down to them, versus I can tell when there's a dancer who goes home and thinks through things and asks questions and seeks out knowledge and isn't okay with like too many unanswered questions. You want to like figure it out, like, how do I
Yeah.
fix this? And I
And
can
I
tell
think
that.
the questioning is key. I think, especially because I would go to group classes all over the place. I would take from all the teachers. I would take always. And I feel like there's a lot of fear from people of taking different methods and different teachers. But I feel like the only way to tell the truth is to see the not truth or to see the other way. How do you know what is even compared with if you're not seeing all the other perspectives? So anytime I would get conflicting information, instead of being like, that person's wrong, I'm like, well, how could they be right? And how could they be right? What would the world look like in which that person was right? And think like, how could that be correct? And I'm like, maybe that's correct for them because of these reasons, or ask them,
Yeah.
and like sometimes it's annoying to teachers when you ask them about the other, like what the other teacher says, but it's like when you come at it from the lens of like, I believe you believe you're right, and I believe that you believe that I believe that this works for you. So how does this work for you? Because I have another teacher where this way works for them. So what is the different, like what is
Mhm.
it about their method that doesn't work for you, and why is your method different? And then you just get so much information when you notice the
True.
contradictions, because then you can sink deeper in the level and you get information from them about why they think that's wrong. And then you're like, great, now I know more about why that works because that's why they think it's wrong. And that's, you can like make sense of it.
Wow, everyone can learn from that, because yeah, the foundational assumption of I believe that you believe you're right, that's huge, versus I've had teachers who just scoff at another approach or instantly target the dancers who are coming from a different background and say, why do you do that? That's wrong. Versus when I teach and I get new students from a different training background coming in and I see them doing something that I don't understand, I even like asking them and saying, okay, I've noticed over the last couple of weeks you approach things this way. Can you tell me what your teacher shared with you as to like the reasoning behind that? I want to know, instead of
Yeah.
just like, that posture in arabesque doesn't work. Why would you
Right.
do it that way? It's like, okay, they're trying the best they can based off of what they know. And I want to know the reasoning behind it, because maybe I can even learn something. And the
Right.
student can learn something from having to articulate that.
Right.
So I love the whole inquisitive mind behind your teaching philosophy. And also I can see why that has gotten you very far. Um,
People
so
call, one of my friends calls me aggressively curious. I'm like, yeah, I suppose that
yeah,
could be.
that tracks. Hey dancers, I hope you're really enjoying this video so far. I want to briefly share something with those of you who have been experiencing things like low self-esteem, performance anxiety, self-doubt, putting a lot of pressure on yourself, comparison, caring a lot about what other people think, relying on external validation. I could go on and on and on about a lot of these common mental struggles that a lot of us dancers face, especially if you're dancing and training and performing at a high level. If that's something you've been experiencing and you really long to have the mental skills and support to be able to overcome performance anxiety, know how to perform well under pressure, overcome self-doubt, and actually start to trust and believe in yourself for real and build real confidence so you can enjoy dancing again and perform to your highest potential. If that's something that you want, that's exactly what the Confident Dancer Coaching Program is designed to help you do. This is my individual mindset coaching program that I've designed to help dancers build a healthy mindset that actually helps them to feel and perform their best consistently. If this is something you're interested in seeing, if it's a good fit for you, just click the link below to visit theconfidentdancer.com, learn all about what the program includes, how it works, read incredible testimonials from past clients that I've worked with, and schedule a free 30-minute consultation where you and I can connect, discuss your goals and challenges, and see honestly if working together would be a great fit for you personally. That's the best next step, and since it's no strings attached and totally risk-free to you, might as well give yourself the gift of pursuing this and seeing if it could really be that thing to take you to the next level in your dancing. So if that's something you resonate with or interested in, again, head to theconfidentdancer.com, and I look forward to connecting with you there. All right, let's head into the rest of the video. I'd actually love to hear about I think, blocks that you see your students and the dancers who come to dance with you at Broche Ballet. What do you think typically blocks those dancers from feeling like they're really getting the most out of their journey and like really enjoying it? Is it, for example, like a mindset, like I don't deserve to be here, or I'm not good enough, or I don't know what I'm doing? It's probably a combination of that, or also just like a lack of opportunities for training. I'd love to hear more from your perspective.
Yeah, I would say that when it comes to adults learning ballet for the first time, especially, it's a little different. People coming back who have technique already kind of in their body and they're just like archaeologically digging it out again, right? Like going on an excavation journey to like find it again because it's already in there. It's a very different feeling. It's a very different person, and their journey is extraordinarily different. If you are learning it for the very first time, I think there can be a lot of doubt if it's possible to learn, in the same way that, you don't hear a lot of stories of people who learn a language as an adult and develop a local accent.
Yeah.
It's possible with training, right? But not many people have or even think that they could take the training to get that accent figured out, right? Like to think about the details and the nuances and slowly train and work on all of that. And so when you think like, can you learn stuff as an adult? And then you're like, well, probably not, because you usually learn this as a kid. And that alone in and of itself stops you from asking, what would it take to learn this? What is different about what I'm doing than what they're doing? Why is this not possible as an adult? Is it because of whatever reason? What is it? Stops you from even the second layer of questions, much less the 100 layers that it's going to take you to get to the bottom of the situation. But it stops you from even asking one more question of why. What is going on here that is stopping me from learning this? Why can't I have a graceful balancé? If you just say because you didn't learn it as a kid, well, what are the components of a graceful balancé? Can an adult learn how to step nicely on one foot or no? Can you learn coordination? Is that a skill you can learn? Breaking down what are the actual components of it, and like then asking, are those things that are impossible to learn? Probably not once you get to that point. So if you just think like, oh, you really can't learn this as an adult because that's gracefulness is a je ne sais quoi, and you can't learn a je ne sais quoi as an adult, right? If you have that sense that you can't develop that as an adult, you won't even bother asking how I can get there or why I am not there or how did that person get it. You won't even bother trying because it's just a fact in your mind. And then, a lot of times when you go to teachers who learn this as kids, they're just like, I don't know, make it more graceful. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not graceful. So how would I do that? And you just assume you can't.
Like they use the word to define the word.
Yeah, they're like, stop looking so, yeah. You're like, stop looking so stiff. And you're like, well, I came here to learn how to stop looking so stiff. So, when you receive that feedback and nobody tells you like, you're looking stiff because your elbow joints aren't bending correctly, or you're looking stiff because you're not you're keeping both your legs bent for too long, or because you're, whatever it is, like there's so many reasons why a person is looking stiff that if you didn't like look, you wouldn't even bother finding them.
So true. That is such an actionable insight as well, because of course, I'm going to direct people who feel like, if you're an adult dancer who's like, I want community, I want more training, obviously take classes with Julie over Zoom. They're so fun. again, I've taught them. Your group is so fun, so supportive. So definitely look into that, everybody. But you just described such a powerful mindset, which is just as simple as the commitment to having an open mind. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it provides so many benefits that I believe once you get started with that commitment to yourself of, I'm going to have an open mind and I'm going to ask how before I make a decision that I can't.
Right.
I'm going to explore, experiment, be curious, like all of these traits that lead to that classic growth mindset.
Mhm.
I do believe that once a person starts walking down that road, the benefits become so enjoyable that the commitment to it becomes eventually a no-brainer. It becomes a way of being. Because even for dancers who are watching, who maybe you have trained your whole life, you're a professional, pre-professional, like me, I can still even get into that mindset of, oh, I'm just let's see, like, oh, I just do doubles on the left instead of triples. And I love using dance as a practice for my mental strength and fortitude and just growth there, just as much as physical, because I love asking myself, well, why not give the left side a force for 3 turns, just like the right? The left is not really any different at all in principle than the right. It's just kind of how I treat it. And that's so freeing. So I think the encouragement is really, don't put yourself in a box, right? Saying I'm too old, or for me it was I didn't do a grand plie for like 2 years because I was like, oh, I've had a knee injury, I've had knee surgery, I don't do that anymore. And there was a time where that was a beneficial belief for me to have, or a decision that I made, but then it became a box I put myself in, where it was actually preventing me from developing the quad strength and the range of motion to be fully functional and unlimited.
Right.
So don't put yourself in a box,
It's just
Oh,
hard. You don't even know you're in a box until,
yeah.
you that's the hardest part of it is you don't even know you're in that box because it's just the truth. It's just a fact to you. It's just I have a knee thing, or it's just I don't do that or whatever. And I think one of my favorite like quotes, it's like a little anecdote that's just like if you ask a kid if they play the violin, they say, no, I haven't tried yet. And if you ask an adult, they say, no, I don't play the violin. And it's like, I mean, just that in and of itself, it's like I don't know exactly how it develops or happens or whatever. It doesn't really matter how we got here, but we just look at all the things that you say, I can't learn that. I could never learn that. It's like, huh, maybe, maybe not.
Mm,
Maybe some things maybe you can't learn, some things maybe you can, but maybe we can just put them all on the table and see which ones are possible and give them
yeah,
a try.
that's so good. I love the idea of using dance as a practice of giving yourself a space. Let's say your class is an hour and a half once a week. That is your space to come in with the mindset of, how do I want to surprise myself today? What do I want to try out? How do I want to give myself a chance to have fun, to elevate my physical capabilities, to just try things on for size instead of just try to live up to what I did last week? Every class can be a new experience. And I think that's what's so beautiful about dance is when you give it a purpose beyond just being a better dancer, even though that's a fantastic purpose and it's totally fun. And I often take class with that purpose, but you can also play around with it. It can be an exercise in like active meditation, or in just giving yourself the space to just have a good time and do something you love for that period of time. And this is a mindset that I think, regardless of your career or intentions with dance or non-career, you could practice that. It is so fun. I even saw that last year in Miami. I feel like the festival was such a transformative experience on a personal level for everyone, because there were so many dancers who I could see that they never, ever, ever envisioned themselves performing a solo on stage. Like they never would have thought they would do that. And just because a group of other people were doing it, and you were like, yeah, that's the point. That's what we're all going to come here to do. And this is your safe space to do that. Just to see like the joy and life and just complete elation just exuding from everyone. Like, I just did that. What? And for me and Mikey, when we were judging it, like we were crying. I was literally crying. I was like trying to write down helpful feedback and also just like because both me and Mikey came from, the like buttoned up ballet world and just to see how I walked out of that final performance thinking, wow, this is such an example of how limited the common mindset within the ballet world is and how we can shift our priorities to be honestly focused on things that can be very insignificant, like or arbitrary rules for ourselves, like I could never perform because my technique is only like this, or I could never challenge myself with intermediate steps because I've only danced for 2 years, I'm not ready for that. And just to see how the joy and the life and like pure emotion that every dancer poured out on that stage, I thought, wow, like that's the real point of dance. And all of them get it in ways that most dancers on a professional stage probably haven't tapped into that ever, if not maybe in the last couple of years. So it was really powerful. So anyway, dance as an exercise in personal development.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a huge so when you learn ballet as a kid, someone else is making the decision for you every day to go to class, right? You have to make some decision for the semester or whatever that you want to keep going to class, but there is a person who is taking you there, who is driving you there, who is saying, let's get in the car, and maybe you fight a little bit about it, but there is someone to fight with if you don't want to go. There is somebody that you have to justify yourself to if you don't want to go. There is a decision process every single time you skip. But as an adult, you have to choose it over so many other things in your life. Every single week, every single time you practice, you must pick it over something else in your life by yourself. And there is nobody to tell you, hey, I noticed that you picked other things over ballet over and over again. And then you don't have a chance to really dig into why, because you go to your mom and you say, Mom, I want to quit ballet. And your mom's like, oh, hon, but you love ballet. And then you go through the whole thing and you realize that you're just feeling whatever discouraged and you're whatever's going on. And maybe you can talk to your teacher and try some new things and you problem solve you wanting to quit because mom knows you love it so much. But you, as an adult on your own, having to make these decisions for yourself, it's so easy to just invisibly give up on yourself when you're feeling discouraged, when you're feeling you can't get the je ne sais quoi of ballet, when you're not sure when you're going to be able to do XYZ, when you're feeling stuck and blocked. And so a huge part of what I believe is necessary for adults is helping them choose ballet every single time and helping them get enough out of it in the journey that they will choose it again and again and again and again for long enough to get any good at it, because it takes a while, as we all know, to get good at ballet. You have to pick it for years before you get to a point where you feel comfortable doing it, right? So if you don't feel like you're getting anything from it during the beginning, why in the world did you pick it over something else that is so important to you, like your kids or your job or your work or relaxing at the end of the day to recharge for the next day or meal prepping for the week or whatever? Like ballet needs to be so important to you and make you feel so fulfilled day to day that you will go often enough to learn it. So a huge component of learning it at this age and stage is helping people through that part of it, because if they're not showing up, you can't teach them anything. Your number one job as a teacher is to get them to class, and then you can teach them anything. That's the easy part. Anyone who comes to my class, I can teach them anything. I have no doubt about that. If I cannot get to my class, I cannot teach them anything.
True.
So to me, the work is 90% getting them to the door, and then 10% of the work is getting them to the pirouette.
And now I have to ask, how do you do that? I'm sure there are so many insights that we watching can all pick up on for self-motivation too. And I know that there are so many instructors who watch my channel and we're all like, how do you do that?
How do you get them there? Well, as always, I am always my own test bed. I am always my own test bed. There's nothing I ask people to do that I'm not doing myself. So I took up singing and I took up jujitsu. These are two things that really test me in both of these areas. In singing lessons, in the first several months, I wanted to quit every single week. I
Oh.
started because I'm afraid of my voice. I started because couldn't vocalize, was afraid of my voice being loud. Like I've always been kind of a quiet person, which is, I know, hard to believe, but whatever. It's just my natural is to be kind of quiet. And so I started singing lessons and I was just so bad at singing. I was just so bad at it. And I felt awful after every class. And I was just like, oh my God, I am so bad at this. But I'm like, look, okay, you are currently feeling how everybody else feels when they start ballet. So you must stick this out and learn what to do about this. And so unfortunately, I forced myself to do it for the purpose of researching it for other people because I was just like, I hate this. I do not want to sing anymore. I'm so
A true woman of integrity. Love it.
this is so embarrassing. Like I am so bad at this and I do not want anybody to hear my voice ever. Like not even my teacher. I am so bad at this. And I know some people out there can relate with ballet where they walk into a class and it is just humiliating because you're so clumsy and you have to, I like it, what, you know, it's been a long time since I felt like that with dance. And so getting into it with singing, I was just like, oh, this is horrible. I hate this. You know, I didn't practice at home. Like I said, I believe in home practice. I was just like, I cannot hear my voice without somebody asking me to sing. I cannot have anyone in my house hear my voice. I cannot sing. But every week I like made myself go, I'm like, you will go and you will try another week and you will feel these horrible feelings. Even though nothing bad is happening, you will keep feeling these horrible feelings and it will get easier. And it did get easier because it always does. Because it always does. If you keep showing up for some months, 6 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, that's all it takes for it to get easier. It doesn't take longer. It just takes some weeks, some months. And just like reminding myself every week, like nothing bad happened. All that happened was you felt a little sick to your stomach, or you felt a little embarrassed, or you blushed, or you, missed a note, or you cracked a note. Literally, you are still on the ground in your house, running a successful business, helping people with their life. You are still here, and you just felt a little embarrassed for 30 minutes. That is all that happened. And you can go next week and feel a little embarrassed for 30 minutes. And you can go the next week and feel a little embarrassed for 30 minutes. And feeling embarrassed is fine. You can blush in front of your teacher if you need to. I have. The first time she made me sing in front of a mirror, I head to toe completely red, and I was like, I don't need to see this. And but it was like, nothing bad happened. You only just felt embarrassed for 30 minutes. That is all. Wow. And you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
You better preach. That's good. And you could totally have that. I could see how you could translate that with students, because the more you guide them through naming the blocks and embodying acceptance for it, or even pre-framing. I do this a lot. Like, for example, when I was coaching a dancer today, and a lot of times when I'm helping a dancer to work through certain particular emotional blocks or form a healthy relationship with their emotions for the first time ever or in years, it's really normal to experience this, like at first ease, like, oh, someone's helping me, oh, I can change, and then like extreme resistance to the process, and you're like, you know what, maybe this isn't working, and like I'm done. It's weird. This doesn't feel right, because your nervous system is like, we must protect the status quo. Like, it's so normal, and I experience it too, and I know to pre-frame that, because I've worked with therapists and coaches before, and I know how that goes. And so it's really powerful when a teacher like yourself has gone through and continues to put them through exercises that cause them to empathize with the student experience, because I know, as much as it's like, at the same time, you can say like, and it's okay if you're feeling this, and actually that's the point, and celebrate if you felt really embarrassed and you did it anyway. That's awesome. And also like setting a tone where you're sharing what really matters in the classroom, continuing to reiterate like, the point is, actually, we're going to try this combination that's a little challenging, because I want you to feel how actually kind of exhilarating it is to give yourself permission to be really bad at it and do it anyway. And so when you just kind of like pre-frame that that's the point, so they're like, but okay. That's what I said in Miami. I think I accidentally overheard some of the dancers after my class. They were like, that was really hard. And I was like, oh no, But then one of them said, but it was so refreshing that she actually believed in us enough to give us that. I was like, and then it came out from around the corner. I'm so glad you liked it.
They're like,
Oh,
ah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. So those are some really, really good insights.
I
I
would
would love
share
to
just a
go
little
ahead.
more
Yeah.
with the other thing I took up jujitsu, that was a whole different set of blocks. That was a whole around along the lines of like, is this important enough to do? Where to me, I wanted to learn about conflict and fighting and just like how to kind of speak my voice. Like a big part of fear of my voice is when you speak your truth and then what comes back at you, what you do with that, and how you engage in like respectful conflict, right? Basically, what is that all about? And to me, I learned better with my body. So I was like, well, let's take up some way to understand fighting with my body, because there's no way I can use my voice for this yet at this point.
Yes.
And so that was very hard, though. It took me a year to figure out how to show up to class twice a week. And I still missed class yesterday because I prioritized work over it. It took me a year to believe that I could leave work unfinished to go to class. It took me a year to figure out how to eat enough food to fit that into my class, into my day, because it's so physical that I had to like ramp up my eating and hydrating schedule. And I already eat a ton, and I had to eat more to figure out how to get enough energy to get there. It took me a year to figure out how to get things done that needed to get done in order to make time to go. And still, when something needed to get done and the clock is going, like it's time to get to class, and I'm like, oh, but this is so important, I need to just finish it. It took me a year to see that when you take a break and do the thing that energizes you, you come back and get it done faster. And still yesterday, for the first time this year, I missed a class because I had too much to do, and still made that choice again to not take the time for myself in that day. So it took, like I said, this was a long process, a year to figure out how to show up. And that was just figuring out how to show up, not even getting really good at the sport, right? Like I still get clobbered completely every single time, which is normal in the beginning. But that getting to class process is not easy to figure out, because you already live a full life, and then you're going to try to fit more stuff in there, and you're going to fit it to someone else's schedule and whatever. Like that is not that took me a year to figure that out, and I still don't have it figured out. So that's a whole other vibe of how to fit it into your life.
Wow, which it's so interesting that I'm wondering, and I feel like it's kind of a safe bet to say I'm sure it feels like failure sometimes, like how long that took, maybe from the inside, or at least like, oh, I'm not meeting my expectations. But then when I hear you talk about the patience and just the learning process and the time you've taken to work out that commitment, I actually feel like that is a success, that you stuck with it and that you've taken so much from the process of even just showing up for something. Because sometimes my mindset is like, and I think this is kind of common amongst dancers, if I'm not good at it, I don't want to do it.
Right.
Which,
Right. Or if I'm not perfect today, if I'm tired today, I shouldn't bother showing up because I'm not going to be able to give 100%. That's another one.
yeah, it's the all or
I'm too
nothing.
tired. What if I can't be my best?
Hmm. Yes, the black and white fixation on like mindset within with the fixation on results only
Yeah,
versus gain in the process.
it's so tough. So through this process, it's been about a year and a half that I started seeing lessons, and a year, maybe longer than a year and a half since I started seeing lessons. It took me about 6 months to get over the embarrassment. I finally performed in front of people for the first time in September. So I got over it that far. And
Wow.
then it took me, like I said, a year to figure out how to show up to class. Every week I show up, they're making fun of me for not coming. Like, why are you so busy? Like, whatever. Every week. It's like, so it's been a long learning process, but to me, it's been so important, even through the beginning of my teaching career, to get people to class is the number one job of a teacher
Yeah.
in this sense. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily the job of a teacher who's not the studio owner. I don't know how much control you have over all of it, right? But it's just like I'm out there on social media, in my email newsletter, talking about the problems that I've had with showing up to the things I want to do, and that helps people see that, man, showing up is the hard part. The easy part is the learning.
So true. Wow. Again, you're an inspiration, Julie. So I think it would be great to round out our conversation by just asking, what are some encouragements or messages you really want to leave the audience with, especially the audience that is, my adult dancers out there, the recreational dancers, people considering getting into ballet, curious about it? What messages do you want to share with them?
With First of all, I hope you do. I hope you do get into ballet and go take it as far as you want and do, yeah, uh, put as much as you want to into ballet. As I've said throughout all of this conversation, all of it is part of ballet. Learning how to get to class is part of it. Learning how to take care of yourself, learning how to motivate yourself, learning how to do all of these things that are outside the studio is all part of it. Like ballet is your catalyst for learning how to structure your life in a way that you want it to be. So it's like your, chance to have a reason to make change in your life when it's easy to just get stuck and stagnate and be doing the same thing day in and day out and not push for change or for the next thing that you want to do. And to the people who are already in it and wanting to continue leveling up, I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who believe that it's possible for adults to learn the sort of nitty gritty details and to be surrounded by other adults who are curious about learning that sort of stuff. Because if you're in an environment of people who don't want to learn that sort of stuff and the teacher starts teaching that sort of stuff, the studio owner is going to get feedback that the class is too boring and too slow, and the teacher will be encouraged to speed it up. So it's also important that your classmates and that the environment of the studio is a place where if you want more details, that the teacher feels supported in giving you that type of detail and that type of instruction, because there's many forces coming into the teacher's life that you may not know about that are going on behind the scenes. When the studio owner gets an email that the classes are too boring and these people are leaving, they're going to feel that they need to encourage the teacher to teach in a different way. So it's important that you have as many conversations as possible about what you want and how you can be supported, and take a private lesson with the teacher to talk about this sort of stuff. And just really the biggest thing is just to keep asking how, why, where, how can this be for me? How can that be for me? How can ballet be for my body? How can my body work with this? How can that step work for me? Here's where I am. Here's where I want to be. And keep like digging and poking and prodding and chipping away, chiseling away at what you want from it, because it's there. You have to take it. No one's going to give it to you. Even as a child, no one's going to give it to you. You have to seek it and work it and massage it and get work to get there. But that's what I would say is just don't stop chipping and chipping and chipping. You got life to do it. So keep chiseling.
Amen. Yes. Don't put yourself in a box. Don't limit yourself. I mean, I even love to share that because when I stopped dancing full time, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to feel as fulfilled in dance again. I'm
Right.
not going to do it for 6, 8 hours a day. I'm not going to do it like that anymore. So what could that look like? And even for me, I had to learn a lot of these things through just resetting my relationship with dance. So I can empathize with what a lot of these adult dancers are facing, because I've even had questions I've asked myself, like, oh, could I really do that anymore? Will it be as fun if I'm not as good at it? Things
Right.
like that. And it's so worth having that like rebirth of my relationship with dance. I would recommend it to anyone, just like your relationship with anything, especially yourself. We're always learning and growing and resetting. And so having that beginner's mind and just the openness of mind to be honest with yourself about what you want to do, what you want to try, and just give yourself a chance to do it and give yourself an open mind and finding and discovering what parts of it you really enjoy as well, instead of maybe just finding enjoyment in the accomplishment of it, the final product. So
Yeah. The day to day, each class is all we've got at the end of the day. Every day is what we have to experience. So it behooves us all to make each day what we want it to be.
true. Where can the people find you? I'm sure they want to after this conversation.
You can find me all over the internet. I'm on YouTube, Broche Ballet channel. I'm on Instagram, both Broche Ballet, where I post more things about my teaching, and Julie the Ballerina, where I post more things about motivation and like my own experiences going through all of this, like through my own activities. And also fresh on the scene on TikTok, Julie the Ballerina, having a good time vibing over there, which is, I think, what the kids say. And I think that's all the places. So come find me. Let's have a good time. let's dance. Let's get as good as we can get. Have a good time on the way.
I'll link all that stuff. The people are gonna come after you. You guys take her classes. They're so fun. Well, thank you, Julie. This has been such a delight, and hope everyone enjoyed this. I'm sure they did. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Super fun always to get to chat with you for any reason, but this is a great one
For
to be
any
able to share.
reason, great excuse. This channel is just an excuse to talk to my friends online.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.